Max Verstappen caught a lot of criticism for his actions at the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. He isn't the first driver to ignore team orders, and he won't be the last either, but his complete disregard for Checo's achievements and his apparent belief he's above the rest of his team has not gone down well with a lot of fans and pundits. Max's attitude is dangerous. It's fine when he's dominating, but when he isn't, what happens? We're going to look at his actions and the sport's reactions today, as well as how his behaviour could hamstring him in the future. So don't go anywhere. If you're a regular watcher of our channel, which you definitely should be, you will have seen our video on Max's actions at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. We did a deep dive into what happened on track during the race, but in case you missed it, I'll give you a quick summary because it's important to today's video as well. Verstappen went rogue at the F1 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, ignoring his team's request to slow down before clocking the fastest lap of the race. The daring move secured Verstappen a close second place behind his teammate Sergio Perez and retained his 1-point championship lead. Both Verstappen and Perez reported reliability issues towards the end of the race, so Red Bull asked both drivers to adhere to a targeted lap time of 1 minute 33 seconds. This was fast enough to keep Alonso at bay, but slow enough to reduce the workload on the cars, minimizing the chance of either having an issue that could end its race. However, Verstappen seemed to have other ideas as he failed to respond to repeated requests to slow down from his engineer, Gianpiero Lambiase. On lap 45, with 5 laps to go, Verstappen couldn't help but inquire about the fastest lap, something his team said they weren't concerned with. They were more interested in getting both cars over the line in one piece. But when Lambiase responded with 32.1, it was clear that the Dutchman had his sights set on taking the fastest lap point away from Perez. Perez was told a few laps from the end he was free to push. Red Bull clearly knew that Max was going to take a shot at the fastest lap, whether they wanted him to or not. Checo did try to better his time on the last lap, but aborted a couple of corners in after making an early mistake. Max made no such mistake, and as he passed the checkered flag, he secured the fastest lap, a bonus point, and a slender lead over his teammate in the Drivers' Championship. This is not the first time that Verstappen has disregarded team orders, causing tension within the team. The two-time world champion was asked to let Perez through during the latter stages of the 2022 Brazilian Grand Prix in order to help with his fight with Charles Leclerc for second place in the drivers' standings. That was after Perez had let Max through earlier on to give Max a chance at making a late pass on Fernando Alonso. Despite having already won the championship, Verstappen would not let Perez back through. Max's treatment of his teammate, a driver who is well liked by the fans of the sport, has not been received well. This is where the first of the many potential consequences of Max's "I am the most important driver" attitude appears. I'm not talking about what the fans think of Max, he doesn't care about what we think. I'm talking about what his teammates think of him, and what he is willing to do to help him. David Croft said after the race on Sky Sports F1's podcast. In the cool-down room after the race, there was still friction between the two drivers. Checo was not a happy man at being asked to do target lap times that were slower than his teammate. Perez is in his last year of his contract, and if there are no signs of another deal coming, what's in it for Sergio to help his teammate in the way Red Bull would like? I think there are a few banana skins down the road. As for Max's dad, all is clearly now well in Jos Verstappen's mind when his son finishes and leads the World Championship. Yet, he can barely break a smile. If you haven't already seen the photo of Jos Verstappen staring into space while Checo celebrates next to him after his race win, then here you are. But the important thing that Crofty points out isn't that Jos is a horrible person. We all know that already. No, the important thing is that Checo is out of contract this year. He's proved at Red Bull that he's an excellent driver. In reality, he isn't in that absolute top tier like Max, Lewis and Fernando, but he's definitely one of the better drivers in the remaining 17. Perez could play wingman for another year to Max, letting him through when necessary to help him breeze to the Drivers' Championship. Alternatively, considering he's 33, Checo could be thinking he's done playing second fiddle to others. He's got as much as he can out of Formula 1 as a team player. He might want to get as many race wins as he can, especially if this is his last year in the sport. He probably wants a Drivers' Championship, and if he thinks he can get it, then fair play. Go for it, Checo. But I don't think he can match Max over a whole season. Max's single-mindedness might lose him his only ally on the track. Does he need Checo to win a championship? No, but it would definitely help. Remember the last teammate who had a big falling out with Max? Baku, 2018, Daniel Ricciardo? Any of that ring a bell? It isn't just a lack of help Max is risking. A direct fight with your teammate can end terribly. Those crashes happen more often than you think as well. Hamilton and Rosberg in 2016 was a big one. Vettel versus Leclerc 2019? Perez has been involved in one in 2018 in Singapore with Esteban Ocon. A DNF means 0 points for Max and 25 for one of his opponents. That can make the difference in a championship battle, and if Verstappen wants to fight Checo, then that might be the consequence of it. If you watch the Grand Prix on Sky Sports F1, then you will have appreciated the addition of Bernie Collins to their coverage. The former head of Aston Martin race strategy brought insight to the commentary that had been missing previously, and her ability to explain the technicalities behind a very complex sport outstripped any of the existing commentators. She wrote about the Max and Checo fastest lap battle in her post-race piece on the Formula One website, and pointed out another consequence of Max's inability to follow team orders. During the race, Checo was already suspicious of what Max was doing behind him and what the team was saying to him. In summary, Bernie said, "Personally, I think there may be even more suspicion among both drivers going forward, and in future races, we could expect fastest lap attempts from both in the closing lap." Max has given Checo every reason he ever needs to ignore team orders and just drive as he sees fit. Even if the team wanted Max to win races that Checo is leading in the future, he isn't going to drive at target lap times if he knows Max is behind him. If Max isn't going to follow team orders, why should Checo? If the Mexican followed orders in Saudi Arabia, Max would have caught him and at least had a chance to pass him. Checo isn't going to give places to Max if he isn't getting the return service, and that's a consequence the reigning world champion will have to deal with. You know how actions have consequences, yeah? Well, there are more for Max. Natalie Pinkman reckons Red Bull team boss Christian Horner is going to have a trying time managing his drivers as they both chase the biggest prize of all. Had he, talking about Max, not been starting P15, she said on the Sky Sports F1 podcast, and perhaps slightly unnerved by those driveshaft issues, he could have won the race. But I just do predict Christian is going to have his work cut out to manage these two this year. Christian Horner might think Max is the most talented driver the sport has ever seen, and his wife Jerry might look at Max like he's her own son, but if you piss off the boss, it's going to cause problems. Christian has proved that he's an incredibly talented team boss during his long career in the sport, but there's nothing you can do to control two drivers when the red mist descends on track. The only option then will be to cut one loose. If it does come to that, it will be Checo looking for a new contract at the end of the season. But do you think Christian will forget that Max made his life miserable all year? A Drivers' and Constructors' Championship might soften the pain, but he won't forget. Life with Max on a team hasn't been easy, and Christian could cut him loose just to make his life easier. Just getting Jos Verstappen out of the garage would be a good enough reason to do it, to be honest. Max is treading a fine line between ruthless brilliance and unbearable egotism. Which way do you think he'll fall this season? Will he sail to a third Drivers' Championship with no problems? Or could angering Checo prove to be a big problem for him? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.